Welcome to Canvas Assignments and Assessments. In this portion, we will be discussing building an assignment. While demonstrating making an assignment, we will be covering assignment settings, submission types, and more. Within your Canvas course, navigate to the Assignments Index page. From here, you can create an assignment by selecting the dark blue Add Assignment button in the upper right corner of the screen. Every assignment should be given an intuitive title, instructing students of what the assignment is, followed by a descriptive instruction set utilizing Canvas's rich content editor. For the sake of examples, I'm going to go ahead and title mine Sample 2, Instructions here. Now, it is worth noting that the Rich Content Editor does allow for you to do a lot of really interesting and fun things with your text. You can embed images, slide decks, videos. You can change your fonts to include headings and make the text itself more accessible for all students. The most important thing to learn about the Rich Content Editor is that whatever you put in it, make sure that you're paying attention to your accessibility. Below the Rich Content Editor, you will notice a circle with a little person inside of it. This is Canvas's built-in accessibility checker. If there are errors within your text above, there will be a notification showing how many errors the accessibility checker has found. By selecting this, it opens up the accessibility checker pane, and you can then work through all of those mistakes. So let's get into all of those assignment options, submission types, and settings. First, we'll start with points. Points is where you designate how much you want this assignment worth. Assignment groups are where you can designate if you've already created assignment groups where you want this particular assignment to be housed, or you can create an assignment group within the assignment by selecting Create Group. And for instance, maybe this assignment will be part of a low stakes writing group. All assignment groups can be assigned a weight and will translate into weighted columns within the gradebook. Display grade as is how your assignment grade will display in the gradebook for your students. So from the drop-down menu, you can opt to have it be a percentage, which for instance, if this assignment was worth 10 points and a student received an 8 out of 10, if I selected percentage, it would show as an 80%. You can have it set to be complete or incomplete. Points is the default, a letter grade, a GPA scale, or you can mark it as being an ungraded assignment. You also have the option to not count the assignment towards the final grade. This is a great option if you have practice assignments or scaffolded assignments that you're building into one another, where perhaps you will be giving a final grade for all submissions at the end, but not necessarily a grade for each submission specifically. Then we have submission type. If you mark this particular assignment as not graded under display grade as, submission type goes away, okay? It does not apply here. When looking at your options, you have no submission, online, on paper, and external tool. No submission and on paper work virtually the same. This is a great option when you don't necessarily need students actually submitting an assignment through Canvas, Or if you're teaching face-to-face, you're not having them actually turn something in. This is an option that can be used to create extra columns in your gradebook for when you want to add in participation points, attendance points, or even extra credit. Online submissions is when you want students to use Canvas to submit their assignments. From here, you would select what kind of online entry option you want. Text entry will provide your students with a text box. It will be the rich content editor, so they can complete their assignment using Canvas's RCE. You can select to have their submission be through a website URL. For instance, if you have them completing e-portfolios using Google Drive and you would like a link to that e-portfolio, you can select website URL. Media recordings allow for the submission to take video and audio files. Student annotation, which you'll note it is grayed out for me currently, and that is because further down the form I have group assignment selected. Student annotations is not available for group assignments. However, if I deselect group assignment, I can now select the student annotation option. What this does is allows for you to upload a document that your students will then each get a copy of, and they can then go through and annotate that document. This works great if you have students annotating diagrams, pieces of literature, or historical documents. And then you have file uploads. File uploads will allow for students to upload a document, a PowerPoint, whatever it is that you are assigning for them. Now, with that being said, if you are particular about the types of documents that they submit, for instance, if you would prefer Word documents over Macintosh Pages, then you can select to restrict upload file types and designate that you would like Doc and DocX documents. What this does is forces students to submit only those provided document types or file types. Now, external tool is when you want students to submit their assignments using an external application that has been enabled through the course. This means something like VoiceThread, Google Assignments, or even a Kaltura video quiz. Below that, you'll see submission attempts. From the drop-down, you have two options, unlimited and limited. Unlimited will obviously give your students unlimited attempts at uploading their or submitting their assignment, whereas limited allows for you to place a limit on how many times they can submit to this assignment. Now, because I have enabled file uploads, I have been given the option for plagiarism review. Canvas utilizes Turnitin plagiarism checker. If you would like to use this, this is basically the Canvas equivalent to Blackboard's Safe Assign. You select it, and it gives you a number of options. We will be discussing Turnitin plagiarism checker later on in this workshop. As I mentioned earlier, you can designate assignments to be group assignments. If you select this as a group assignment, you can then go in and select from the group sets that you have already created from your course roster. Additionally, if you want to create a new group category, you can do that within this window. You also have the option of assigning grades to each student individually within that group, or just giving one lump grade for everyone. There's also the option for peer review, which if selected there, I can manually assign peer reviews. I can let Canvas do it for me, which if I select that, then I can just designate, okay, I want everybody to complete 2 peer reviews, and they need to have their reviews done by a particular date. And if you are using groups, you can select to allow intergroup peer reviews, okay? If you want to remove any bias that your students may have in the peer review process, you can have them appear anonymously, which removes the student's name from their submission so that there is no bias carried into that review session. That brings me to anonymous grading, which again removes student names from the submission and therefore removes any sort of bias that you may have regarding that particular student's work. From there, you can assign to, the default is everyone. If you are teaching multiple CRNs of the same course and you would like to only submit to one section or maybe one group of students, you would indicate that here. You can see I can go ahead and select specific student groups. I can select sections, or if I wanted to assign this to just one particular student, I could go in and select a student's name. You then have the option of putting in a due date. Do keep in mind, items without due dates do not show up on student to-do lists. So make sure that you put in a due date. The default will always be to 11:59 p.m. So if you'd like another time, go ahead and indicate that at the bottom by selecting the time that you would like and selecting done. You can also limit the availability of the assignment from a particular date or until a particular date. Once you've determined all of your settings and options and you are good to go, you can either save or you can save and publish. Keep in mind when you publish something within Canvas, this makes it visible to your students that are enrolled. Now you can also add a rubric once the assignment has been created by selecting the Add Rubric button, and then either building a rubric within the screen or finding a rubric that you've already used. And from there, you would select Use this rubric, and it is there for you. Thank you for watching. For more information, please visit clt.odu.edu.